Okay, so, like, everyone knows construction is this huge industry, right?
Right.
But have you ever stopped to think about all the logistics involved? Like, all that stuff, the steel beams and the concrete, even just the lumber, it doesn't magically appear at the construction site.
It's true, yeah.
That's where today's deep dive comes in. We're talking wood and construction materials distribution managers.
It's more exciting than it sounds, trust me.
We've got some really interesting stuff from RoleCatcher, their career guide on this, and some extra bits from their website. And let me tell you, it's way more complex than just running a lumber yard.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're basically talking about the backbone of the entire construction industry.
Exactly. And the guide makes it clear this isn't your grandpa's lumber yard anymore. It's high tech, high stakes, and crucial to keeping those construction projects running smoothly.
You got that right. You send over some of the details from the career guide, and even just reading through that, I was struck by how much more is involved than I ever realized.
Right. It's way more than just hauling 2x4s around.
Exactly. Think about it. A distribution manager might need to get, say, a shipment of specialized eco-friendly lumber
Okay.
to like a remote mountain resort construction project.
Oh, wow.
And they need to do it on a tight deadline and without, breaking the bank.
Talk about pressure.
Exactly. That's supply chain management in action right there. It's about making sure the right materials get to the right place at the right time and, crucially, at the right price.
That's a great example. I mean, it's like a giant game of Tetris, but instead of blocks, you're dealing with, well, everything.
Yeah.
Lumber, nails, drywall, you name it.
And the guide even mentioned using AI and some pretty advanced tracking systems to optimize all of that.
Oh, yeah, even like you said, even Grandpa's lumber yard is going digital these days. And those systems aren't just about knowing where a shipment is at any given moment. They're about predicting demand. Figuring out like, okay, how much lumber are we actually going to need next month? And then, managing the inventory flow.
Making sure you're not overstocked or, even worse, running out at a critical moment. Exactly. And then automating some of those transportation systems to make everything even more efficient.
So it's not just knowing where the wood is, it's making sure it's the right wood in the right quantity at the right time. There's some serious strategic thinking involved in this role.
Oh, absolutely. And that need for strategic thinking,
Yeah.
it's only going to grow. The guide mentioned a really positive job outlook for wood and construction materials distribution managers, and that makes sense when you think about how much the construction industry as a whole is expected to grow in the next few years.
Right. More buildings means more demand for materials, and more demand means a greater need for skilled professionals to manage it all.
Precisely. Someone's got to keep those materials flowing.
Okay, so we're getting a clearer picture of what this career path actually is, but what about the how? I mean, what are some of the day-to-day tasks and responsibilities that someone in this role would actually be handling?
The guide breaks it down in a really practical way from, entry level all the way up to those more senior positions. Yeah, yeah. It's like climbing a ladder, and where you start out might look quite different from where you end up.
Hmm.
Early on, you might be, assisting with inventory management, using software to track incoming and outgoing shipments.
Right, keeping tabs on everything.
Exactly. Or even, getting some hands-on experience in the warehouse.
Oh, interesting. So actually getting a feel for how things move on a practical level.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you'd be surprised how many people end up in management roles without ever having spent any time on the ground floor.
It's true. You can't really understand the flow of things just from looking at a spreadsheet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But anyway, as you progress, the guide talks about how the role evolves to include more responsibility. So you might find yourself leading teams,
Oh.
negotiating contracts with suppliers.
So it becomes more strategic as you move up.
Exactly, exactly. You're not just like moving lumber around anymore. You're thinking about the bigger picture. Like, okay, how do we get the best possible price from our suppliers? What's the long-term outlook for lumber prices?
Right. Anticipating those market fluctuations.
Exactly.
I was really interested in that part of the guide where they talked about optimizing stock rotation,
Oh, yeah.
because it's not just about, having enough lumber on hand. It's about making sure it's moving efficiently.
Yeah.
You don't want a bunch of lumber just sitting around.
Right. It's not wine. It doesn't
Yeah.
get better with age.
Exactly. And the guide mentioned that minimizing waste is a big part of that.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, every square foot of that lumberyard costs money, right?
Right.
And every day that lumber sits there is a day that it's not being used to, actually build something.
It's about maximizing efficiency at every stage.
Exactly. And minimizing those storage costs, too, because that all adds up.
It's amazing how much strategy is involved in something that, on the surface seems as simple as managing lumber.
Yeah, people don't realize it's a lot more complex than it looks.
It's definitely not your typical desk job, that's for sure.
Oh, definitely not.
Yeah.
It has its own unique challenges, that's for sure.
Like what are some of the things that the guide highlighted?
Well, for one thing, long hours are pretty common, especially, when deadlines are looming.
Right, when you've got a project that's on a tight schedule.
Exactly, exactly. Or when those unexpected issues pop up, which they always do.
I can only imagine. And let's not forget about the weather.
Oh, tell me about it.
That's got to be a huge factor in this industry.
Oh, yeah. I mean, a sudden downpour could mean a whole lot of soggy lumber and some very unhappy clients.
Right. It's not like you can just reschedule a delivery because of a little rain.
Exactly. But here's the thing, though. Even with those challenges, and there are definitely challenges, there's also a huge sense of accomplishment that comes with this job.
How so?
Well, you're solving real-world problems, often under pressure, and you get to see those tangible results. Like when those materials arrive on time and a project comes together.
There's a certain satisfaction in knowing that you played a crucial role in making that happen.
Absolutely, yeah. It's not just about numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about contributing to something real, something tangible.
Building a bridge or a skyscraper or, even just someone's home.
Exactly, exactly. And that sense of purpose, combined with, the fact that these skills are in high demand, that can lead to some pretty rewarding career paths.
Speaking of rewarding, the guide also talked about the skills that make a top-notch wood and construction materials distribution manager. And it sounds like it goes beyond just being organized, which you'd assume is pretty important, right?
Oh yeah, organization is key, for sure. But it's bigger than that. The guide really emphasized negotiation skills as being crucial. I mean, think about it. You're constantly dealing with suppliers, contractors, maybe even navigating, price fluctuations in the lumber market itself. Being a strong negotiator can make a huge difference in your bottom line and your company's bottom line.
So it's not just about managing materials, it's about managing relationships and budgets too. It's a much more people-oriented role than you might initially think.
You got it. And you need to be able to think on your feet, too. The guide was really big on critical thinking and problem solving as being key skills for this. You've got to be able to adapt to those unexpected situations and come up with creative solutions. Because, well, hiccups happen.
Always, there's that high-stakes Tetris element coming into play again.
Exactly. And, we can't forget about those soft skills either. They're becoming more and more important in, honestly, pretty much any field these days.
Right, being able to communicate effectively, work well with others, all of that.
Exactly. And the guide specifically highlighted social perceptiveness. You got to be able to read people.
Because you're often the liaison between different teams, clients, suppliers.
Exactly. You need to be able to build rapport and communicate effectively so that everybody's on the same page. And that's where some of those technological tools that we were talking about earlier can really come in handy too.
Right, because it's not just about managing the logistics of it all. It's about streamlining communication, making sure that information is accessible to everyone who needs it.
Exactly. And that's true whether you're talking about, a small lumberyard or a huge multinational corporation.
It's like you said before, even Grandpa's lumberyard is going digital.
It's true. And speaking of digital tools, we've got to talk about those resources from RoleCatcher that you mentioned. Their platform sounds like it's really designed to help people navigate this whole field, whether you're just starting out or you're further along in your career.
Yeah, I was really impressed by how comprehensive it seems to be.
Yeah, and their use of AI is really interesting. For someone who's maybe considering this career path but not sure if they have the right skills or experience, the guide mentioned that RoleCatcher has tools that can actually analyze your resume
Oh, wow.
and see how well your existing skill set lines up with what's needed in this particular field.
That's incredibly helpful. I mean, to talk about taking the guesswork out of it, right?
Exactly. You'd know right away if your current skills are a good fit, or if there are maybe some areas where you might want to, develop some new skills or get some more experience.
Right, so you can tailor your job search accordingly.
Exactly. And they don't just leave you hanging there. They offer interview practice sessions with AI-powered feedback.
Oh, interesting. So it's like having a personal career coach in your pocket.
Pretty much. It helps you hone those interviewing skills, which, let's be honest, can make or break you in a job interview.
Oh, absolutely. Especially in a competitive job market, anything that gives you an edge can make a world of difference. And it's not just for job seekers, right? They have resources for people who are already working in the field too.
That's right, they do. RoleCatcher seems to get that even if you're already established in your career, things change. It's not like you just learn everything once and you're good to go,
Yeah.
you know?
It's all about staying ahead of the curve, right?
Yeah,
Especially with technology changing so fast.
exactly. And honestly, even in a field like construction and materials distribution, you wouldn't think it's like cutting edge tech, but
But it's changing, right?
oh yeah, it's definitely evolving. And having the right tools and the right insights can make a huge difference. RoleCatcher seems to be really trying to, bridge that gap between what the industry needs and what individuals need to actually thrive.
So like having a secret weapon up your sleeve. All right, well, we're getting close to the end of our deep dive into this whole world of wood and construction materials distribution managers. What are some like key takeaways for our listeners to walk away with today?
Well, I think the biggest one is this is a career path with real potential. As long as people keep building things, we're going to need people to get those materials where they need to go.
And the construction industry doesn't seem to be slowing down anytime soon.
No, not at all. If anything, it's just going to keep growing, which means even more demand for those skilled professionals.
And it's not just about knowing your plywood from your particle board, right?
No, definitely not. We've been talking about this whole time. It takes strategic thinking, problem-solving skills. You got to be able to handle those curveballs that life throws at you,
Right, because something unexpected always comes up.
always. And you got to be able to think on your feet, adapt, and on top of all that, don't underestimate those people skills. Building those strong relationships with your suppliers, your clients, even your own team, that's huge.
It's more than just like crunching numbers and managing inventory.
Way more. It's a dynamic field, that's for sure. It takes a special kind of person to really excel at it.
Someone who thrives on a little bit of chaos, maybe. All right, so for our listener, the one who's stuck with us this whole time, let's leave them with something to think about. Imagine you're a distribution manager.
Right.
You've got this huge project riding on you. Deadlines are looming. Suddenly, you get word that your key supplier,
Oh,
they've got a major shortage of a critical material.
yeeks. That's never good.
So the question is, what do you do? How do you navigate that? Keep that project on track, maintain those relationships, keep everyone happy.
Because you know they're not going to be happy about that.
Not at all. It's a real world scenario that these distribution managers face. And it highlights just how demanding, but also, I imagine, how rewarding this line of work can be.
Oh, absolutely. No 2 days are the same, that's for sure.
And on that note, that wraps up our deep dive. Hopefully you've gotten a fresh perspective on what it really takes to be a wood and construction materials distribution manager. It's challenging, it's rewarding, and hey, if you're someone who likes to see their hard work literally built into the world around them, it just might be the career path for you.